So you bought a new SD card, you shove it in your camera, your wallet, or something else like that, and it isn't recognized. What can you do? This is just gonna be a really short video that shows you how to make sure your SD card is partitioned properly to work with things like a Trezor T or a ColdCard. The stuff I cover in this video is also useful if you've got something like an older camera, which is refusing to recognize an SD card that you might be trying to use with it, or vice versa, where Windows is struggling to recognize a memory card that's been formatted with one of these older devices. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop about content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So basically, if you look at the documentation for the ColdCard, they'll tell you need FAT32 or FAT12, or if you look at the documentation for the Trezor, they'll say you need FAT32 as well. And also for the ColdCard, they'll say you need cards up to 32 gigabytes. But the thing that neither of these guys say is that the type of partition table matters a lot. And frankly, I have no idea how or why some of my MicroSD cards have a GPT partition table, but they do. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Win key X with the SD card in a card reader on the computer, and we're going to go into disk management. And once we're in there, you can actually see the different disks that are connected to your computer. And what I've actually put on this memory card here is a FAT32 partition that is 31.25 gig, because out of the box Windows won't let you partition FAT32 above 32 gig. However, if I go to stick this card in a Trezor T, a ColdCard, or even some of the cameras I've got lying around, it won't read them, even though this partition is about the right size and FAT32. So if we just click on the properties for the disk, you'll actually see that this disk has a GPT partition table. So if it has a GPT partition table, it actually doesn't matter whether it's FAT32 or anything else like that, the device won't read it. So what we're going to do is actually just convert this disk to MBR, which is the partition table type we want. Now you can get tools that let you do things like manage and edit the partition tables on disks without losing data, but really it's better just to copy everything off it and to wipe the whole SD card and start again. So what we're going to do is we are going to delete this volume because it won't let us change the partition table type if there's a volume on there. And now what we're going to do is we are going to hit the Windows button and we're going to open command prompt. So if you just search for CMD and hit enter, that's command prompt. And once we have that open, we are going to run diskpart, and we're going to get prompted to run it. We'll say yes. Okay, so what we're going to do is we can say list disk, and you'll notice this is the memory card that we have here. It is a 64 gig memory card, but it's actually only partitioned down to 59 gig, and you can see there's a little star next to it for GPT. So that is not what we want. So what we're going to say is select disk 1. But it's important to note that we said select disk 1 because the disk I want, the SD card, is disk number 1. So we've selected the disk, and now we can say convert MBR, and it has now converted the disk to an MBR format. So once we've done that, we don't need to use diskpart anymore. We don't need to use command prompt anymore. And if we go back into the Windows Disk Management tool and click Properties, we'll see that now it is an MBR, Master Boot Record. We're going to make a partition on there, FAT32, so we're going to say New Simple Volume, and we get to choose how big we want the partition to be. Now, depending on your device, it may have hard limits about how big the partitions are, and Windows will actually only let you use FAT32 if you go up to 32 gigabytes. So what we're going to do is let's just assume we have an older camera or something that can only support up to say 16 gigabytes. We're just going to say 16,000 megabytes. Now, to be fair, there's 1,024 megabytes in a gigabyte, but you can calculate exactly what you want that to be if you like, but we'll just say 16,000 for now. We'll give it a letter, and we're going to say FAT32. And we'll say next, and say finish. And it's going to format that, and there is now some wasted space on that memory card, but look, if it works with the device we're wanting to use it with, sometimes that's just what you've got to live with. Though depending on the device you're using, sometimes you can actually create a second partition on there that you can use in, say, Windows or some other operating system that you don't want the camera or other device to see, because again, most devices like cameras and stuff will just read the first partition only. So sometimes you can do just about whatever you like with the second half of the disk. And so then when you insert the memory card, it'll actually look like two separate disks. But what looks like two separate disks is actually just two partitions on the same disk. And so I just took this SD card out, stuck it in a camera, a ColdCard, and a Trezor. And we can see the ColdCard quite happily wrote onto there. The Trezor put the salt on there for SD Protect, and the camera quite happily took a photo. And all these sorts of simple devices basically just treated this like a single SD card that was about 16 gig in size, and they completely ignored this NTFS partition. So there you go. So it's something to try if your device refuses to recognize an SD card that's either too big, partitioned using the wrong file system type, or has the wrong partition table type. Because often, again, if you get the partition table type to be MBR, if you make the file system Fat32 or sometimes even Fat, and keep the size of the partition itself down, generally speaking, most devices won't have any issue at all being used with new, larger SD cards. So there you go. I've got no idea what actually has been formatting my SD cards as GPT, but a lot of things like Android phones and whatever don't actually care. It's only sort of simpler devices that will have an issue with GPT partition tables. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.